Hello. In this session of Operations Management, we're going to be talking about process strategy and something known as the operations frontier. Beginning with process strategy, we have to first look at the corporate strategy, the overall strategy for the organization. If you're looking at a very large company, something let's say like a DuPont or a Boeing, you notice they have a very large corporation with special business units underneath. For example, with Boeing, they make commercial aircraft, they make defense and space products, they have electronics. Each of those are considered business units underneath that whole corporate structure. Those business units have particular products and services that they make, and therefore they have to have particular process competencies to meet the product attributes of the products and service that they produce. So how do we decide what process competencies are needed? In our last session, we talked about product attributes and how they're related to process competencies. But you cannot have the best of every single attribute at all times. You cannot have the fastest to the customer with the highest possible quality with the lowest cost providing the greatest customization. You can't be all things at all times. Instead, what you have are trade-offs between those product attributes, and as a result, you will have trade-offs between the process competencies. Based on what the organization is trying to achieve in their products or services, that's how we decide what process competencies to pursue. This is explained in the operations frontier. It shows graphically the trade-offs between two product attributes or two process competencies. For example, the trade-off between cost effectiveness and quality, or flexibility and cost effectiveness. So why don't we take a look at that? The frontier is characterized by an axis, an x-axis and a y-axis, with an attribute on either one or a competency on each one. In this case, we're going to compare process flexibility, which is on the y-axis, with cost effectiveness on the x-axis. There's a curved line that represents the frontier. Along that curved line, you see that there are trade-offs. If you're very high in flexibility, you're going to be very low in your cost effectiveness. If you're going to be very high in your cost effectiveness, we're going to be low in the process flexibility. So here we are, right at the top. We are the best process possible that's flexible but not cost effective. Down at the bottom, if we're on that part of the curve, we're the best process that is cost effective but not flexible. Everywhere along that curve, we're showing the best possible process with those particular trade-offs. If we're inside the curve, that means we're nowhere. That means that there are organizations out there that are better than us for that level of cost effectiveness. They're better at flexibility, or for that level of flexibility, they're better at cost effectiveness. So we know that we need to work on our processes to move closer to the edge of that frontier. If we take a look at a specific example, we take a look at hospitals. On one side, we have cost efficiency, the x-axis, and the other side we have flexibility, the y-axis. At the top, a world-class emergency room has to deal with a lot of different kinds of traumas. They never know what's going to come in, so they have to be extremely flexible. They have to be able to deal with every kind of emergency that arrives at that hospital. But as a result, they give up cost efficiency. On the other end, if they're very, very cost effective, we could have a world-class non-emergency hospital. This hospital knows in general what kinds of patients are going to come into this hospital, and so they can plan on it. They don't have to be very flexible because they know the general classifications of the kinds of injuries or illnesses that will come to that hospital. So all along that frontier are best-in-class hospitals with varying degrees of flexibility and cost efficiency. If they're inside that frontier, then they know that they need to get better. They have to have an improvement in their processes to make them either more cost efficient or flexible. So bringing this all together, the operations frontier is showing the trade-off between competencies. Deciding what those competencies are that you want to have has to go back to the product attribute, which then again goes back to the overall strategy of your organization, what they want to produce. In our next session, we're going to talk about how the structure of your process impacts the process competencies that you're able to achieve. We'll see you then.